Just define what we're talking about here. So maybe I'll throw that little one out there, and one of you can grab the balloon and run with it.
I'll take first stab at it. I recently, and we saw in the notes of this particular episode, I did a webinar a little while back on these two roles, and they both have the word product in them, which is a clue of something there, I'm sure. And one says product manager, one says product owner, and this is to define it a little bit. Product management has been a discipline around for a really long time. It's been this idea of how do we grow and take ownership of a product to make sure we can make sure it gets into the marketplace the way it's supposed to, with the right kind of things it's supposed to do at the right timing, at the right price, and all that kind of stuff. And that's been around, gosh, long as I can remember, especially since the 80s at least. Product owners, on the other hand, were invented as a way in the early turn of the millennium to start saying, how do we get better requirements or less responsibility for bad requirements into development teams? Can we make someone else responsible for that? And they created this role called the product owner. Particularly, it's a Scrum role, whereas product management has been sort of a generic role across multiple disciplines, not just software, but all sorts of stuff. Product owners was mostly a Scrum role that was established, let's be honest, to try to take away some of the blame of bad requirements. If the requirements are bad, it's the product owner's problem, not the development team's problem anymore, because it used to be the development team problem, and they were always getting hosed. So they said, let's put it on the business side and call it the product owner. So we've got, but now we have this sort of overlap where we say, okay, product management is supposed to be responsible for the product, but we have this thing called a product owner, which sounds like it should be responsible for the product. And how to make sure those two things actually either work together or work separately and do a good job interacting. And I'll hand it over to Jenny now, because she'll probably have a slightly different take and has great excitement bringing those two together.
The balloon is yours.
Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, I just said the balloon is yours.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely a big part of the product owner's job, since they are the one ultimately responsible for the product backlog, which I always call the fuel for the Scrum engine. That's a lot of requirements work, right? They really are responsible for ordering them, making sure that they're clear, well understood, working with the team to prep them through the refining process so that they're ready to enter a sprint. I'd say there's also a few things that get a little messy, though, right? They're ultimately also responsible for making sure that the team has a clear vision of what they're doing. Now, does the vision come from the product owner, or does it come from the product manager? And that's going to depend a little bit on the organization and how those roles are staffed, right? If you happen to have a product manager stepping into a product owner role, they can probably give that directly to the team. If you're staffing the product owner out of some other role, and there are product managers in the organization, they probably need to be working with that person to understand the big picture, bring that to the team. But they need to provide that guidance. I also think of the product owner as ultimately being like a mini person in charge of a P&L, because the Scrum teams cost money. Every sprint costs money. How you prioritize that backlog is how you're spending that money. And so I want them to make sure that they're thinking about that backlog, not just as a list of, Earl talks about this all the time, right? It's not just a list of stuff we need to do. It's the ordered value my team is delivering, and making sure that I'm doing the best that I can, either through the guidance I personally are giving the team or through the guidance I'm channeling from the broader organization, to make sure that team is ultimately delivering the highest value for the money that we're spending. So I think there is a little bit of a business mindset that I'm looking for in a product owner. There's a bit of vision setting I'm looking. There's some inspiration I'm looking, and there's some connecting the customer into the ecosystem of the teams that I'm looking for.
Right.
And Earl might say a lot of that's good requirements.
Sure.
Well, I think it is. But I want to just hone on your P&L thing, because I think this P&L, and for those who don't know, that's profit.